It's a good job the animation's live because the speaker we have some doubts about. But I got 10 minutes to talk to you about what a poverty-free education might look like. In England, more it has to be said than in most countries, educational outcomes are shaped by learners' socioeconomic backgrounds. In particular, children from poorer backgrounds tend to do worse at all stages of education, including higher education, than their peers from more advantaged backgrounds. And they go on to have poorer life chances. Now, education's often sold as the great equaliser, the embodiment of the idea that it's not where you start, it's where you finish. However, the reality in England is that where you start tends to be very much where you finish. The problem is particularly acute in towns and cities such as Manchester. While Manchester is in many ways a thriving, prosperous city, it's also home to large numbers of children from economically poor backgrounds. Poverty is a significant problem for families in its own right, as we all know. However, it is often, not always, but often associated with problems in health and well-being, with negative peer group pressure, with poor housing and poor resources in the home, with limited levels of education amongst parents, with limited capacity to support children through the education system, with restricted real choice of schools, and in some cases with disillusionment with school learning. Now, we know that families from different social backgrounds tend to live in different places and to be concentrated in those places. So this means that schools located in poorer areas often have to deal with populations of children who face and who present multiple challenges. Not surprisingly, some of these schools struggle and find themselves at the bottom of performance tables and in trouble with Ofsted, the school's inspectorate. For many years, education policy from all the major parties has tried to tackle this situation by improving the quality of school management and the quality of teaching. Now, whilst there's every reason for wanting schools to be as good as they possibly can be, this has proved to be a very limited and largely ineffective strategy. School performance nationally may have got a bit better. There's dispute about it, but let's accept it, may have got a bit better. But these improvements have failed to float all the boats. However well a school does as a whole, children from the poorest backgrounds tend to remain firmly stuck in the mud. If there are a lot of such children, the school itself may remain grounded. The only way to tackle this situation is to address the root causes of poor educational performance. Those causes lie less within the school than beyond the school gates, in families, communities, and in the economy and in society as a whole. We therefore need to tackle the social determinants of poor educational outcomes in the form of poverty, limited life chances, family practices, and the personal and social challenges which children from poor backgrounds sometimes face. We need action at national level to do this, though my assessment is the prospects for such action currently do not look good, again, from any of the major parties. However, there's much that can be done at local level. If the major local services for children and families, schools, children's centres, health, social care, youth work and so on, if they can work together And if their work can be aligned with local strategies for economic development, for housing, for policing and so on, there is every prospect that a sustained and effective attack on poor outcomes can be mounted. Now, this is not simply a pipe dream. In Greater Manchester, there are many examples of such collaborations beginning to emerge. In particular, we at the Centre for Equity in Education are working with Save the Children to support children's communities, as we call them, across the country, with 2 of them located in the Greater Manchester area itself. These communities work in highly disadvantaged neighbourhoods. Schools are at their heart, but all the other major services and residents are equal partners. Together, they assess the real reasons why children in the areas do badly, formulate a strategic approach to tackling children's problems, and set in motion action that they expect to sustain for as long as it takes to make a real difference. Governments will come and go. Policies will change. But these children's communities hope to outlast them all. Ultimately, a poverty-free city may only be achieved when we have a poverty-free country. However, there's no need simply to wait for this to happen. Much can be done here and now. All it takes is for those whose work impacts most on children and young people to find ways of working together more effectively. Maybe the revolution, for such it would be, can start more easily in the neighbourhoods of this city than it can at Westminster.